Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Regular viewers may recall that back in September I did a video about Humza Yousaf going to America for climate change junket. I said it was basically just a holiday because he really wasn't meeting anyone important, he wasn't important, and it was just a waste of time, effort and money. But it was also the idea that he was burning all that jet fuel to go to something that he could have quite easily done using a Zoom call. Seems ironic, doesn't it? However, the details of the junket have all been released. That is to say, the very details that they're prepared to release have been released. Most of it has been redacted or not released at all. They're claiming various reasons, but it seems very weird. And I think that the main reason, of course, is that he achieved very little, didn't meet with anyone. And it was, all in all, just a little bit of a holiday for the First Minister, paid for by the taxpayer, and even his itinerary has been redacted and not published because they know that his itinerary was, well, let's just say very, very thin, and it was an awful long way to go to have a very thin itinerary, and they're now embarrassed about it to the point that they've got to hide everything. Who'd have thought that? Anyway, we'll take a quick look at this, see what's going on and see why, yet again, Humza Yousaf is just wasting money on little things that please Humza Yousaf and do nothing for the people of Scotland. Here goes. Now, when you see how little has actually been published, you have to start questioning why. Why are they so shady about what they are releasing? Why is everything covered up, secret, hidden and sleek it? And we all know it's because this wasn't any kind of formal thing. It was dressed in the formality of, oh, let's go and do this with these great and wonderful people. But really, it was just an excuse for him to have an all expenses paid, where he can sip champagne and eat caviar at 30,000 feet, while joining a little circle jerk of people who aren't important but want to feel important. So, redacted. Humza Yousaf's preparations for New York Climate Week are mired in secrecy, because of course they are. The First Minister headed out to the USA to grandstand about the environment, but all the preparation work for his trip, including invites to speak, were kept secret by the Scottish government. They're not saying anything. They're not saying who he talked to, where he went, the things he said, nothing, because it was very, very empty in terms of what he had to do, giving him lots and lots of time to sit in fancy restaurants, visit all the nice places, slip $10 notes into the skirts of ladies who were on tables dancing, that kind of thing. Humza Yousaf's preparation, I bet he claimed for that and all. Humza Yousaf's preparations for his expensive trip to New York to attend a number of Climate Week events are mired in secrecy, as the majority of information was redacted. This means it is difficult to find out who invited who to jet out to the United States and rub shoulders with the likes of Jane Fonda. Who would want to do that? The First Minister was slammed for going on his flight of fancy in September to talk about climate change when his own government were failing to hit their own environmental goals. The hapless SNP minister, useless SNP minister as well, also repeatedly put his feet in it when making speeches, including boasting that he would be shutting down the oil and gas sector in the northeast, putting thousands of jobs at risk, something which he is no longer doing because Rishi Sunak said, hey, we've just given you these things. There's 100 years of oil and gas exploration. Your jobs are safe. Don't listen to Humza Yousaf. He is a moron. He also pledged £2.5 million of other people's money to tackle heart attacks, strokes and cancers in the global south, and demanded that other world leaders hand over reparation to countries struggling with effects of climate change. What he means is, I'm giving £2.5 million to Pakistan to help them with their health service whilst ours is falling apart. And we want all these rich countries to give money to Muslim countries because, The total cost of this trip has yet to be published by the Scottish Government, despite freedom of information requests. When this website asked for correspondence regarding his trip to the USA, we received pages and pages of mostly redacted documents. This means it is unknown who approached who when it comes to Mr. Yousaf jetting out to New York to lecture the world on the environment. And it's very odd when their own Environment Secretary, the Saturday Girl, didn't even publish her report because it was so bad. And they're failing on all their own environmental issues, and yet he feels able to travel the world very, very expensively, business class flights, and lecture everyone on how well he's doing when he's not doing it at all. It can be revealed that the initial plans for the First Minister to head out to the States were proposed in June, 3 months before he flew out. Then initial proposals were inked out where officials sought to organise and or secure ministerial participation in events focusing on climate technology, international climate finance and attracting climate finance in Scotland, even though it would make zero difference whatsoever. But any other plans were completely redacted, including other engagement hopes, what the aim of the trip would be, timing, locations and the risks and sensitivities involved. These were not included due to a clause which states a significant amount of information requested relates to internal communication between officials, special advisors and or ministers discussing and making suggestions to one another. But we really do need to know what these suggestions and discussions were. That's the whole point of an open and transparent government, of which he boasts but doesn't actually deliver. Because he doesn't want people knowing what he's doing and saying, because he knows people will put him, what? What are you doing? What are you doing that for? How much? That's the sort of thing he'll get. How much, mainly. Anyway, there was no sign of the provisional programme for the First Minister for New York Climate Week, which was also redacted, as was the actual itinerary itself. They actually they redacted the itinerary because they didn't want people to know what was in it, where he went and what he was doing. Because they're embarrassed. That's the only reason they're redacting it. The Scottish Government has promised to publish it at a later date, which is usually a number of months after the event has happened. Well, it's been a number of months and it hasn't been published. Why not? Embarrassment. They were doing nothing, spending an awful lot of money and doing feck all. One briefing note was published for the First Minister's speech at Scotland Climate Tech Company Showcase, where he was expected to boast about Scott Government's values-driven approach to achieving a just transition to net zero, a meaningless phrase which is impossible, and everyone is basically giving up on it now anyway. But he isn't, because he's so behind the times. However, his government has been criticised for failing to meet those climate change targets and have refused to publish their plan for hitting them by the end of this month, blaming Rishi Sunak for this. Oh yes, it's Rishi Sunak's fault that Scotland can't hit the targets it set itself. Oh dear, I don't think it's Rishi Sunak's fault. I think it's a completely different Asian. I think it's an idiot, a man who doesn't know what he's doing, and yet does enjoy the palaver of supping finest champagne, eating the very best caviar, and sitting in his luxuriant seat at 30,000 feet, while schmucks like us pay for it. What a complete tit. I'm coming up. So there you go, another one jetting off, having a great time, all at public expense, achieving nothing, and they're too ashamed to even publish the itinerary because it is so bare, it is so empty. He's going to go and talk to about 3 different people in 3 locations just to justify this week's little holiday as off he goes and, thoroughly has a great time, because it's wonderful when you're an important man and you have lots and lots of people paying for you to do this, even though it's completely unnecessary and very, very hypocritical. But that really sums up the SNP. Expensive, unnecessary and hypocritical. Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has enlightened you. Just goes to show what these people think they can get away with continually without any kind of answering or accountability. And they'll continue doing it until they're shown that they can't. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and never believe anything they say, because they're all lying two-faced bastards. Bye.